All right, so we're gonna take this idea of like revealing layers behind other layers another step forward, and I'm gonna show you a simple way to kind of mask an overlay, kind of like photo filters that you would see in Instagram. Okay, so just like you accidentally were putting in the Instagram filter on some of your renderings, now we're going to very purposefully do it. So the key here, I guess, is that we need to create basically the shape of the graphic. Okay, so that Instagram. Let me show you this. Instagram fade filter. All right, so I guess that's kind of what I'm talking about. So notice how, I guess it's not really a great one. That's a tough one to find. Hang on. All right, I can't find a good version of it. Anyway, you know what filter I'm talking about. It's the same thing that was showing up in some of our renderings. So, huh? Vignette. Yeah, the dark circle around the edge. So first we need to actually set up a graphic that's going to sort of look like the shape of the filter we're trying to generate. So what I'm going to do is if you right-click the Marquee tool, you can change the shape of the marquee that it's going to generate. So I'm going to switch it from a rectangular to an elliptical. And it doesn't have to be exact, but what I want you guys to do is just put sort of an ellipse around your image. It looks something like that. Okay. You can flip it around and adjust it a little bit. In fact, I think I will. If you right-click and go to Transform Selection, you can sort of yank and pull it. So I'm going to pull it till it's about like, if it was an 8.5 by 11, approximately a ½ inch from all sides. Okay? So let me first create a new layer. Okay, so make sure that you're working on a layer that doesn't have any other graphics on it. Okay, because what I'm going to do is, oh, you know what? I did this too soon. Hang on. You can deselect that just by clicking on the page. What I want you guys to do is fill the page. So if you right-click on that button right there, that's the gradient tool and or paint bucket tool, depending on which one you have active at the time, and just go over to the paint bucket tool. I want you to fill this in as black. Okay, and if you hit the little eyeball next to that layer, you should be able to do this. And then feel free to go in and replace that ellipse tool. Just like that. Any questions?
Where's it in?
What's that?
Okay, I found it.
Okay. All right. So with that, I want to real quickly, I guess, the selection tool is pretty cool. Like if I just hit the delete button, it's going to delete it, right? But that's not really what I want to show you. What I want to show you is how to use this to modify and create sort of that faded edge. So what you need to do there is what's called feathering your selection. It's going to take the amount of pixels that you're selecting, and it's going to be more sensitive toward the center, and it's going to be less sensitive toward the outer edge. So I'm going to say select, modify, and go to feather. Now this is where you sort of have to know a fair bit about the size of your image. I happen to know that my image was, I don't know, it was approximately like, it was like 500 pixels by like 800 pixels or something like that. So if I want the feathering, meaning like at the inner edge, it's going to be clear. Okay, it's like it'll clear out to here and fade to clear, and then it'll go the same number of pixels outward to a point where it's opaque. So I'm just going to guess right now at about 50 pixels. Okay, that's just kind of what I'm going to guess. It'll adjust a little bit and look a little funny if you have any right angle corners. But when you delete that, you'll see that it's a little faded. Okay, but that, I mean, I'm just trial and erroring because I don't really know exactly how many pixels it was. So let me go back, and I'm even going to go back again. If you guys want to go back twice, you have to hit Control-Alt-Z, not Control-Z, by the way. But anyway, you can go to Select, Modify, Feather, and I'm going to change this to 100 pixels. And then if I delete that, it looks like that. Okay, so this is a little bit more appropriate to what I was trying to generate. Additionally, I can do a few different sort of iterations of this, one of which I'm going to actually take a paint bucket and I'm going to change my color to white and I'm going to fill it in white like that. Okay. Actually, you know what? Sorry. Go back to where it's black and duplicate the layer. Or you could just create another black layer. It's up to you. Anyway, so I'm going to fill this in with white, and then I'm going to do one. If you turn that layer off, I'm going to delete that layer. Okay, so now when I deselect that, you'll see that I've got one that's just sort of a black and white mask right now, or layer, and then this one is more of a mask. Okay. What questions do you have about that so far? Besides, how the heck did you do that because you went too fast? Yeah.
No,
Okay. Okay, cool. I'm going to give you guys a minute to catch up here, and then I'll get going for what I want to show you. All right. So So you got I got a few questions while you guys were getting caught up here about why are we doing this. The reason we're doing this is because, yeah, this is a filter, but it's not really the filter. Okay. This is just a mask that we erased a little bit out of. The filter that we're trying to create is done by changing your layer setting here. Okay, so having it set to a normal layer means that it's just it just is whatever the color is that you put on that layer, like it's a layered painting. But if you start messing with these, it becomes more of like a photo filter effect. Okay, so I guess first and foremost, I want to show you, let's just set it to hard light, not hard light, lighten, okay? So lightening is, no, sorry, what am I trying to do? Multiply, all right. What am I thinking of? Oh, it's because it's all black, huh? Yeah, it's not going to do it because it's all black. Well, alright. Well, anyway, what you really want to do is probably lessen the opacity a little bit, okay? Because that's going to make it not fully black, okay? So that way, when you sort of turn it on and off, you're going to get a darker edge around the outside, but it's not going to be as dark on the inside. The other thing that I wanted to show you here is this one. This is both a combination of black and white in one sort of array, so it's totally grayscale. But as you filter through these, you're going to see that it's going to change quite a few things about it because of the fact that it's utilizing the entire grayscale. Okay. So notice how with the black edge and then the sort of lighter interior, it brightens up the inside and it darkens the outside when you set it on soft light. If you set it on hard light, it's really going to accentuate everything that's black, and then it's going to accentuate everything that's white, but everything in between, that whole grayscale, that middle range, is what's going to be taken out of the image that you've overlaid it with. Does that make some sense? So that's soft light and hard light. But we also have the ability to sort of multiply. So notice how when I multiply the black and white one, it's exactly the same effect as the black version that was here. Okay, so let me turn my opacity back up. But they're the same thing. Does that make sense? Might be slightly different, but I mean they're pretty much exactly the same thing. Yeah. So let me go back to this real quick, and let's just kind of look through a few options. So We did multiply, but you can do color burn, which is going to take that whole grayscale and it's going to accentuate the saturation of all of your colors. Linear burn is a darkness thing. I don't really use linear burn very much, but you can see that these are all photo filters that you'll frequently use if you're going to be doing like photography and stuff like that. So most of it isn't really all that useful. I do a lot of overlay because it brightens up the contrast of all of your colors. I use a lot of like soft and hard light. Sometimes I'll use difference, but it's very uncommon. In difference, everything that's black is going to stay its original color, and then everything that's white is going to invert on the color wheel. So exclusion, I don't really use that. Subtract just darkens everything out that's white. Divide just gets everything from the black range and just bumps up the, I guess it's color contrast. I guess that would be color contrast. Anyway, so you get the idea, right? Like you can create these filters that are going to create effects over top of the image that you want to generate. So what I do want to point out to you real fast is that you can start to Photoshop in using very similar elements, sort of effects on top of your image. So the first of which I wanted to show you is like a film dirt overlay. Okay, something like this. If you want to go for something that's almost like a rustic look or like an old school look, you would want to go with this. So I'm going to grab, I want something a little more grayscale than that. Let's do this. It's going to be a little bit too much, but I'll use it anyway. So I'm going to turn that layer off. I'm going to copy and paste this in. You guys can just watch. You don't have to do this one. I just want to show you that you can do it. So this one, you can set it to overlay, and you could also, actually I probably want to set this one to multiply, something like that. But when it's set to multiply, it's a little too intense, so frequently you combine these overlay settings with opacity. So I'll start to bring the opacity down a little bit, and what that does is it just makes it look a little bit more like an aged image rather than just, you know, the digital image that I generated. Yeah.
What does multiply stand for?
Like, you mean physically what is it doing?
Yeah, like we don't dissolve what it means, but what does multiply do? What is the word?
You know, I don't know.
What the effect is?
That's a very good question. I never even really asked myself that. I'll find out for you though. Yeah. In fact, hang on. Let's see if we can find out really fast. Okay, so were there any questions about that before we proceed? Cool. Sounds good to me. All right, so what I'm going to do is I want to take the screaming guy out of this guy, and I'm going to show you, let's take out his mask as well. If you need to delete the layer mask, just right-click on it and go to delete layer mask, and it'll come back. Another really cool thing about the layering, rather than erasing, you can just delete the mask and the whole image is still there. Okay. All right, I guess that's it for this segment, and then we'll move on.